The purpose of this screencast is to evaluate sources. And also, you'll find it helpful for locating sources. So we used our keyword search previously. We came up with these keywords. And now we're going to be using these keywords to find reliable and relevant websites. So I'm going to come back to this quite frequently. I also might find it helpful to come back to my questions. And yeah, this is blank because I've returned it to its previous state, but you're going to have yours filled with questions. These questions are going to guide your thinking. So when you're looking at a website, you're going to say, oh yeah, this website answers a bunch of these questions. Or you know what, this website doesn't answer any of these questions. It's probably not relevant. Reliability of a website from this keyword search is you're finding a website that looks like it was written by somebody who knew something about the topic. It's been updated recently. So it's written by an expert, recently updated, and it looks like the information that's on it is reliable. In other words, it's truthful and accurate and updated. I'm going to teach you some tricks for that as well. So back to our web page. Overview of the project here, or this phase of the project. We're still in gathering information, so we're still in the G, and now evaluating sources. The purpose of this exercise is to practice evaluating sources online for reliability and relevance. Learnings. Students will be able to use the www dot method to locate and evaluate sources online that are reliable and relevant. This www dot method is it's an acronym for when you encounter a source, you can then apply this to it to see if the source is worth your time and should be considered. Directions. Students will watch this Think Aloud that was done by their teacher for evaluating sources online. And you should watch this carefully to see all the decisions and choices I make as I complete this Think Aloud. And then on Google Classroom, you will find the form below. And it looks like this. And I'm going to get a larger version of this right now. So, evaluate sources, Minnesota interviews. First thing I want to do is I want to start with my topic. So mine is still Dred Scott. And as I go through these directions, I'm going to stop and kind of make choices to show you how they work. So students will use their list of keywords to locate potential sources online. Here's my keywords. So I'm going to be typing these into some type of search engine. Next, I'm going to use kidrex.com as a search engine to find appropriate sources. Kidrex is made for kids, so it finds sources that are reader-friendly for students, as well as appropriate for students. So, Kidrex. And Kidrex looks like this. So we'll start our search here. And all I punched in was kidrex.com. Okay, this is a trick. It's a good one. When you type in your keywords, you may want to end it with site:/org or site:/gov, site:/edu, site:/ac. And you put these after you've put your search words in or your keywords in, because then you're only going to get websites that end in org or gov or edu. And like we talked about at the beginning of the year, these sites that end in this tend to be more reliable. Sites that end in .com are commercial. They are there to sell you something. So a lot of times the information on them is very biased because it's going to be in favor of a product that the website is trying to sell. Whereas if you go to a gov or an org, you know they're not selling anything. For the most part, they are just trying to provide you with information. So we're going to use this trick as well. So we'll come back to that. Here's the www dot method. And the first W is who wrote the source and what credentials do they have. So I can see a name of the author that wrote it, and then I can search that person, right? And we'll use that when we get down here to Annette Atkins. We'll see who she is, because she did that Mopedia site. We'll see what it says about her. Second W, why was it written? I'm going to preview the text and see why was it written. Look at titles, look at headings, look at pictures, and kind of determine why this site was written. Was it written to give information, or is it written to sell something? When was it written? I want to find a date when it was last updated. And sometimes that appears, sometimes it doesn't appear. And obviously you want stuff that's been more frequently updated or more recently updated, because then it's up to date with the latest facts. D, does it help meet your needs? That is where I come back to my questions. And I look at the website and say, is this going to help me answer these questions that I've generated? Okay, then organization of the site is O, and I'm going to look and see how the site is organized. And from that I can tell a lot. I can tell if this is professionally made, I can tell if it was made by another student, and I want to get a lay of the land so I know how to navigate the site. If it's easy to do so and easy to read, or is this something that's really not in my wheelhouse as a sixth grader? Finally, I want to create a to-do list. And so that you'll see here. Comment on the site. Is it good or is it not? And does it allow you to search some stuff further, or to find some other websites, or a question to maybe ask your teacher or the librarian? Finally, list reliable and relevant sources in the table below. Include the name of the website, its URL, and its author, and then put comments in about the to-do list. We'd like you to find 5 online sources. And we've already given you one, because this is what you used to conduct that initial reading where you generated questions. So I'm going to go back to my keywords, and I'm just going to start with this, Dred Scott biography. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to KidRex. I'm going to put this in. And then I'm going to add something to it, site::org. And that means I'm only going to get org websites. And I'm going to hit search. And I got 4,470 results. So that's a lot of results. And I also advise students, look around and deep into the page. Don't go with the first one. You're going to see it's Wikipedia, which generally is not written by experts. And historic Missourians, this could be good, because this is from a website about maybe made by the government of Missouri. Okay. I'm going to come back to this. Dred Scott, PBS. So public broadcast station. I know that that's usually pretty reliable. So this looks like a pretty good website. So I've located the website. So now I want to go back to my questions. Who wrote the source and what credentials do they have? So when I look at this, I'm going to look and see if I can find an author. I know PBS oversaw the whole endeavor. PBS Online, Teacher's Guide, Home. I'm not finding a particular author's name on here, which is fairly common for websites, but I do know it's made by PBS, and for the most part, that's reliable. And PBS has pretty good credentials. It's been around for a long time, and it's always made in the public interest. So right off the bat, I'm pretty confident this is a good site. Why was it written? Well, looking at this, I can tell just from Dred Scott went to trial, born in 1800. I finally answered one of my questions there, right? I asked when he was born, so it's already answering some of my questions, seems relevant. It looks like it's just taking me through Scott's life in a pretty concise way. And if I hit next, I'm going to see where it takes me. Oh, it's taking me more kind of things to do with leading up to the Civil War. So back to Dred Scott. So this looks like a pretty good site so far. So I know it was written to tell me about his life. When was it written? So let's see if we can find a date of when it was updated. They don't seem to have when the site was last updated. Again, not a lot of websites have that. So that makes me question a little bit. When was this information last updated? Does it reflect the latest research? Doesn't seem to have that info. I'm still pretty confident about it. Does it meet my needs? So now I go back to this question generator. And for my purposes, I'm going to go to my before and after. Does it answer a lot of these questions about maybe Scott's life as an enslaved person? Or does it answer questions about the Scott decision or maybe impacts on Minnesota? So when I look at the website, I kind of cruise down and I can look at it and see, oh, here's the court decision right here. So it's going to answer my questions, some of my questions about the court case. Here's the court case again. I also noticed that it's going to give me some of his information about his life before the court case. So it seems to kind of bring me throughout his whole life and be kind of an overview of his whole life. Pretty solid biography. Resource contents based. Oh, this looks like a table of contents for everything. No, it still doesn't have. So when I look here, this might help me with my to-do. It looks like there's other things that the Dred Scott case might lead into. So for context. But I'm going to go back to the site. So next question. So it does meet my needs, certainly. Organization of the site is pretty straightforward. It just seems to be that we have paragraphs that take you, that are sequence in order, they're sequence based. So in other words, starts from the beginning and moves me to when Scott dies and what happens with his children, etc. after his death. So it seems to be organized in that manner. For biography, that's what I'd want. And then to-do list. What I like about this website is that it's anchored in other pages that are similar. So when I find, here's the Dred Scott Fight for Freedom, Westward Expansion, I got Bleeding Kansas, and I got the Compromise of 1850, Fugitive Slave Acts. I have these other websites that are kind of telling me what's going on in the country at the same time as the Dred Scott case. And then I'm even looking up here and I see other sources on fugitive slaves, and these are documents. Wow, if I could find something that has to do with Dred Scott, wouldn't that be cool? So this seems like it's a pretty reliable and good website. It's almost like a history book in a way. But it does have some primary source documents as well. So overall, I'm giving this site a thumbs up. So I'm going to want to use it. So I'm going to put in the name of the website, which is pbs.org. So I put pbs.org. And then I want to get the exact URL so I can easily come back to it. So I copy my URL and I paste it into this box. And then I can just click on this to get back to it. Author, if possible, I'm just going to put PBS. Probably a team of authors put it together and they're not naming one specifically. And comment about it, this is pretty good. And as a bio of his life, and then to do has a lot of links to other sources telling me what was going on around Scott during his life. And I'm going to shrink this so it doesn't take up too much space. You can do that too. And there. I've kind of thoroughly gotten a pretty solid website using the www method. So, when all is said and done, you should have 5 good sources that you can use and ones that meet all your needs.